What's up, guys? Today we are finally doing the long requested video on top tips for improving your console PUBG gameplay. I've decided to do these videos in a series, so this will be the first installment of this new series of videos. And without any further ado, let's dive right in. The first tip I have is to take advantage of both the training mode and the team deathmatch modes available to everybody. When PUBG was first released on console, there was no real way to practice or experiment with weapons. Since then, PUBG has given us two very good tools for improving our gunplay at the fraction of the time it would take to get the same amount of gunplay during a match. Training mode provides an excellent means of testing out new sensitivity settings, recoil patterns, and even grenade throwing and driving. I'd recommend spending quite a bit of time in the training area, especially if you're new to the game, as it'll give you a chance to pretty much try out every piece of equipment and attachment without having to seek it out in the middle of an actual battle royale match. Team deathmatch goes hand in hand with training mode. Team deathmatch will give you the opportunity to practice your gun skills against other players in the first-person perspective environment. You can customize your loadouts in team deathmatch and pretty much practice any gun combinations you want to. I would say that you can get the same amount of gunplay experience in one 10-minute team deathmatch as you would in about 3 to 4 hours of the battle royale mode. It's no wonder that many of the top players on console make team deathmatch a part of their warm-up routine, especially during tournaments and league games. I can guarantee that putting in some time into the training mode and team deathmatch will increase your PUBG skills at a much faster rate than anything else. People ask all the time to see my sensitivities. It is by far the most used command on my Twitch channel, as well as the most viewed video on my YouTube channel. Once you figure out what kind of sensitivity settings you feel somewhat comfortable with, it is pretty important that you stick with them and refrain from changing them, as tempting as it may be. That brings us to our second tip, which is stop changing your sensitivity settings. I can honestly say that in 4 years, my settings have remained very similar, not changing at all. When I have made adjustments, they have been in tiny increments. People have a tendency of constantly changing settings, adjusting things, hoping to find some quote-unquote God setting they haven't run across before. Well, there isn't any God setting. The only way you are going to get better is to get used to your current settings, which you could only do if you stop changing them. As tempting as it can be, leaving your settings as is will benefit you more in the long run. If you decide to make adjustments, just be sure to do them in small amounts and over time so that your muscle memory can catch up to your new settings. PUBG has several different modes to choose from. Some are more noob friendly than others. In my experience, if you're a newer player, the most forgiving mode for you to start off playing is probably TPP or FPP squads. That takes us to our third tip, which is stick to squads. The reason for that, in squads, there's more room for error. And if you make a few mistakes, hopefully your team can help you out in one way or another. TPP versus FPP is the ever ongoing debate, but as a general rule of thumb, TPP tends to be geared towards newer players, as it does not necessarily reward aggressive plays. I could go on for a while on the various differences, pros and cons of both modes, but suffice to say, for the purposes of this tips video, I would stick to either TPP or FPP squads, whichever you find more comfortable. That being said, I do not recommend playing with LFG groups, but instead finding a reliable squad or group of friends to play with. The fourth tip I have, if you want to take your PUBG game to the next level, is to invest in an aftermarket controller, preferably with either buttons or paddles on the back. Personally, I use a Battle Beaver controller, which can be seen in more detail on several of my other YouTube videos. Other controllers I would recommend looking at are SCUF controllers, the Razer Wolverine, and the Microsoft Elite 2 controller. All of these have the ability to bind buttons on the backside, which in my opinion is a very crucial part of upping your PUBG game. By binding A and B buttons on the back, you make it infinitely easier to move around. Movement is a pretty essential part of survivability in PUBG, and it's easy to tell a new player's movement versus a veteran's movement. Binding a few buttons on the back of your aftermarket controller is going to help you achieve that elusive movement. Even binding the X button on the back of your controller will make looting a lot easier, especially if you're not the natural claw grip type player. I'm not sponsored by any of these controller companies, and maybe there's a few I don't know of, but nonetheless, I think it's a worthwhile investment, and definitely do your research to figure out which one is going to be good for you and your playstyle. The last and perhaps the most important tip that I have for new players to PUBG is to invest in a good monitor and headset. This might be a little bit obvious of a tip, but you wouldn't believe how many people I speak with that believe their 65-inch TV and theater surround sound system is top notch for gameplay. I'd be willing to bet that a $150 24-inch monitor and a $100 headset will do better than a $1,000 TV and a $1,000, home theater system. There are several technical reasons why a monitor is better for FPS gaming than a large TV, but this is magnified on PUBG, where one simple mistake, such as missing a player on screen, can be crucial. Like with monitors, a good headset will give you an insane amount of more information than regular speakers, or even a high-end home theater system will give you. Footsteps and gunshot directions are some of the most important aspects of learning how to play PUBG, and having the correct tool to distinguish and decipher that information is invaluable. For monitors, I would recommend looking at the 24 to 27 inch range. Make sure you get one with a very low response time, ideally 1 millisecond. Refresh rate for console PUBG isn't hugely important, as the game is currently limited to 60 FPS. With saying that, finding a 1080p 1 millisecond 60 Hz 24 inch monitor would actually be extremely affordable for most people. And that would put you at pretty much the best console PUBG currently offers graphic wise. For headsets, I recommend the Astro A40s with mix-amp. It's what I've used for years and has never let me down. Turtle Beach makes a similar product, their Elite Pro 2s, with their mix-amp. Those headsets can be a bit on the pricey side for some people, but Astro also makes a cheaper A10 headset. Other than those, I recommend checking out HyperX's lineup of gaming headsets, as they do make some affordable stuff. So that sums up my top 5 tips for new players. I plan on doing more videos like this, so let me know what you guys think. In your opinion, if I missed something, let me know. Maybe we'll include it next time. So to summarize, my top 5 tips for new PUBG players are: number 1, play TDM and training mode. Number 2, stop changing your sensitivities. Number 3, play squads over duels and solos. Number 4, invest in a custom controller. And number 5, use a monitor over a TV and use a decent headset over speakers. Till next time, thanks for watching. Guys, a free way to support me is to go to accounts.pubg.com, the creator appreciation program, and link my creator code FEYD101. It is super easy to do. Just got to scroll down, find my name, FEYD101, hit it there, hit submit, boom, done. Appreciate it, guys.